The next morning, the house is too quiet. Abby sits at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that's gone cold. She hasn't slept. Her eyes are puffy, her robe still clings to the same sadness from the night before. She keeps glancing at the front door, half hoping Daryl will walk back in and pretend like nothing happened. But he doesn't. Doug comes downstairs in his usual rush, juggling a phone call and checking his email with one hand. He pauses for a second when he sees her, really sees her sitting there, stiff and hollow. He furrows his brow. "You okay?" he asks, still scrolling. Abby nods quickly, eyes down. "Just tired." Doug narrows his eyes. Something's off. He can feel it, but instead of pressing, he sighs and says, "All right, I've got a meeting at 10. Then he notices Daryl's door is cracked open, and the room is empty. Bed made. Backpack gone. "You seen Daryl?" Doug asks. Abby's voice catches in her throat. She shakes her head. "He left last night. I think he's at a friend's." Doug raises an eyebrow. "Since when does he not text? That's not like him." Abby doesn't answer. Doug shrugs it off, but he feels it, a tightness in his chest that hasn't been there before. He brushes it away like he always does. Another thing he'll deal with later. A few hours pass. Doug gets a phone call from someone unexpected. Dwayne Trell, the school counselor. He steps into his office and closes the door, voice low. On the other end of the line, Dwayne sounds concerned. "Hey, Doug. Sorry to call like this. I wanted to talk about Daryl. He's been off lately, withdrawn, distracted, quiet, even for him. Today he came in and asked if he could stay in the counselor's lounge for a while. Said he didn't want to be at home." Doug frowns. "Did he say why?" There's a pause. "Not exactly, but he looked scared. Sad too. Said there was something going on at home he didn't know how to talk about." Doug's face darkens. He hangs up the phone without saying much more. And for the first time in a long time, he doesn't head back to work. Instead, he walks back into the kitchen, stands across from Abby and stares. "What happened?" he asks. Abby looks up slowly, her expression guarded, lips trembling. Doug's tone sharpens. "Something's wrong with our son. I just got off the phone with his counselor. He left this house last night and didn't come back." "Why?" Abby opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out at first. Her face crumples and she buries it in her hands. Doug waits, confused, his chest tightening, and then she says it, barely above a whisper. "I crossed a line," she says. Doug steps back like he's been hit. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't mean to," she chokes out. "I was just so lonely. I haven't felt loved in so long. He was the only one who made me feel like I mattered. He listened. He cared. And I leaned on him too much." Doug stares at her, stunned, trying to make sense of what he's hearing. "You're saying you," he starts, then stops himself. "What exactly are you saying, Abby?" "I didn't touch him. Not really. I didn't do anything, but it was still wrong. I know that I scared him. I scared myself." Doug turns away, pacing. He runs his hand down his face, trying to hold back whatever storm is building inside him. "Jesus, Abby." Abby wipes her eyes, still shaking. "I was drowning, Doug. You weren't there. Not for years. Didn't know who to turn to anymore. And I leaned too far. I know I did." Doug doesn't speak for a long time. The silence between them is thick. Years of distance finally collapsing in one painful moment. "Finally," he says. "I need to take him out of here. Just for a while." Abby nods slowly, almost relieved to hear it. Doug doesn't yell. He doesn't explode. He just walks upstairs, packs a small bag for Daryl, grabs a few essentials and calls his sister Marcia Giles, asking if they can stay for a bit. Abby doesn't ask him to stay. She knows better. As he walks out the door, he pauses. "I don't know if I can forgive this," he says, "but I do believe you're hurting. I just can't let him get hurt too." And then he's gone. The house is quiet again. But this time, it's not the quiet of a woman being ignored. It's the silence of consequence, of something irreversible. Abby sinks into the chair by the window, staring out at the driveway where their car used to sit. The cup of coffee on the table is still full. Her journal is still under the bed. She doesn't move for a long, long time. Months pass, winter fades. Spring creeps in slowly, with green grass pushing up through thawed ground and birds returning to the neighborhood trees. On the outside, things look the same, but inside, for Abby Conway, nothing. She spends her mornings walking the block alone, bundled in a sweater and scarf even when it's warm. She doesn't talk to many neighbors. She hasn't seen Doug or Daryl since they left, and she hasn't touched her journal since the night everything unraveled. But she's trying, quietly, carefully. Twice a week, she drives to a modest office building on the edge of town. On the third floor, past a door with fading gold letters, she meets with Celeste Ferguson, a therapist with kind eyes and a calm voice. Celeste doesn't rush her, doesn't push, just listens. At first, Abby barely says a word, but slowly, the words start coming out. Messy, painful, sometimes in whispers. She talks about the loneliness, the years of being ignored, the aching silence in her marriage. And then eventually she talks about Daryl. I didn't want him to fix me, she says one afternoon, eyes brimming. I just wanted someone to look at me like I mattered. Celeste gently nods. You wanted connection, but your heart was too hungry to see who you were reaching for. Abby cries. A lot, but it's different now. Not from shame, but from clarity. She begins to understand the way her emotional needs twisted her perception, how she let years of neglect bend her into someone she didn't recognize. She learns how emotional boundaries work, how love, real love, doesn't come from clinging. It comes from healing yourself first, so you don't ask someone else, especially your own child, to carry your pain. Meanwhile, Doug and Daryl are living with Doug's sister Marcia Giles, in a smaller, warmer home across town. Marcia never asks too many questions. She gives them space and fresh meals and leaves the guest room light on at night. Doug doesn't talk much about Abby. Not at first. He's still sorting through his own guilt, not for what happened, but for how far gone things had gotten without him noticing. He starts taking time off work, cooking dinner with Daryl, asking questions and actually listening to the answers. It's awkward at first, but slowly, they start to rebuild. Daryl is also in therapy. He meets with a counselor every week. At first, he's defensive, unsure how to talk about what happened without feeling confused or ashamed. But the sessions help him understand that what he felt wasn't wrong, that being kind isn't a mistake, and that none of it was his fault. He doesn't cut Abby out of his life entirely. He answers her texts sometimes, short messages like I'm okay or thanks. He doesn't visit, but he hasn't blocked her number either. He still loves her, that much hasn't changed, but he loves her from a safe distance now, which is what he needs. And Abby respects that. She still talks to him, just not directly. Instead, she writes letters she never sends. She keeps them in a small box on her nightstand, each one dated, folded neatly, tucked away like prayers. One letter reads, "You were never meant to carry the weight of my broken heart. That wasn't yours to hold. I'm so sorry I let it fall on you." Another one, written a few weeks later, says, "You saved me without knowing it. And in doing that, I hurt you. I promise I'll spend the rest of my life trying to become someone worthy of your forgiveness, even if I never get." She knows he may never read them, that he may never come back the way he once was. But that's not the point anymore. She's not writing for his forgiveness. She's writing because healing requires truth, and for the first time, she's being honest with herself. The house is still quiet, but now it's not hollow. It's still, settled, like the dust has finally started to fall and there's space again. Space to rebuild something better. Abby tends to the garden out back, plants herbs in the windowsill, joins a local book club, not because she wants to distract herself, but because she's learning to be present in her own life again. Not a wife, not just a mother, a woman, whole and slowly putting the pieces back together. 1 year later, the auditorium is full, buzzing with laughter, camera flashes, the rustling of programs. Proud parents crowd into plastic chairs. clapping for every name read off the list. Somewhere in the back row, nearly hidden behind a tall man in a suit, sits Abby Conway. She hasn't seen Daryl in months. They've exchanged a few messages. A short phone call on his birthday. A thank you text when she mailed him a care package during exam week. Nothing deep, nothing heavy, but enough to know he's okay. And for now, that's enough. She almost didn't come today. She thought about staying home, watching through someone else's shaky Facebook live stream, saving both of them the discomfort. But then she remembered what Celeste said to her during one of their last sessions. Healing doesn't always mean getting invited back in. Sometimes it means showing up anyway, even from a distance. So she did. She didn't dress to be noticed. No makeup, simple black dress, cardigan. Her hair's tied back. There's no spotlight here. She just wants to witness him cross that stage. Daryl's name is called. Daryl Price. Cheers echo through the room. Abby doesn't clap right away. She's frozen, watching him walk tall, confident, but still carrying a quiet weight in his eyes. That old soul quality that's been there since he was little. He steps up, takes his diploma. He smiles at his Aunt Marcia in the front row, hugs his dad. Then as he walks off stage, he scans the crowd. For a second, just a split second, his eyes land on Abby. She doesn't wave. She doesn't mouth anything. She just looks at him the way a mother does, when she's proud and broken, and full of something she doesn't have a name for. And Daryl gives a small nod. Barely there, just a flick of the chin, but Abby feels it like a thunderclap. It's not a reunion. It's not forgiveness, but it's something. A thread. A beginning. A quiet acknowledgement that healing, real healing, isn't always loud or immediate. Sometimes it's in a glance, a nod, a shared understanding, that despite everything, they're still part of each other's story. As the ceremony ends, families pour into the hallways, taking photos, laughing, hugging. Abby stays in her seat until the rows begin to empty. She stands slowly, holding her small purse against her chest. She doesn't try to follow him, doesn't look for doubt. She just walks out through the side doors, into the golden light of a summer afternoon, and for the first time in a long time, she doesn't feel invisible. She feels strong, not because she's been forgiven. She doesn't expect that, but because she told the truth, because she did the work, because she chose healing, even if it came at the cost of closeness. And as she gets into her car and drives away, she lets herself smile, just a little. Not everything needs to be fixed to be better. Some endings are quiet, some closures come without words, and sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is let go, without letting yourself fall apart. Sometimes, the deepest wounds come not from what we do, but from what we lacked: love, attention, validation, and when we go too long without them, we look in the wrong places, we cross lines, we hurt people, and ourselves. But healing, it doesn't start with being forgiven, it starts with facing the truth, owning it, and learning how to move forward. Subscribe for more deep dive narrative. Do you believe healing is possible after this kind of emotional entanglement? Drop your thoughts. We read every one. What if the only person who made you feel seen was your own son? Not your partner, not your friends, not even yourself, just him. One boy, doing his best to be kind, and without knowing it, becoming your only lifeline. This isn't a love story. It's not even a hate story. It's a quiet kind of pain, the kind that builds up when someone feels invisible for too long, and when the need to feel loved turns into something darker. Before we go any further, I need to be real with you. This story gets uncomfortable. It's raw, it's honest, and at times, it'll cross lines that aren't meant to be crossed. If that sounds heavy, that's because it is. Viewer discretion is advised. But here's the question I want you to really sit with today, and be honest with yourself. What happens when someone's heart is starving, when they're craving connection so badly, they stop seeing things clearly? Would you have caught the warning signs? Could you blame someone who's drowning for grabbing the closest hand, even if they weren't supposed to? If you've ever felt unseen in your own home, or stayed in a relationship that made you feel small, this story's going to hit hard. Drop a comment right now. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt totally alone, even with someone right next to you? Stick around, like the video if it pulls something out of you. Subscribe if you want more stories that dig deep and don't sugarcoat life. Let's get into it. Abby Conway used to be full of life, the kind of woman who laughed too loud at movies, danced in her living room for no reason, and made a mess in the kitchen just to bake cookies with her son. Back then, she felt loved, seen, wanted. That version of her feels like a stranger now. These days, she moves through her house like a ghost. Her husband, Doug Petty, is a successful guy, one of those sharp, suit-wearing corporate types. He works hard, travels a lot, and always pays the bills on time. To him, that's being a good husband. He's not cruel, he doesn't yell, he's just absent, emotionally checked out. They live in this big, beautiful house in the suburbs of Indiana. Everything's polished, quiet, and way too clean. The kind of place that looks perfect from the outside, but inside, it's cold, like no one's really home. Most mornings start the same. Abby makes coffee for both of them. Doug walks into the kitchen already on a work call, grabbing his mug without looking at her. There's barely a good morning, and the only real conversations they have are about bills or their son Daryl. It's like they're roommates who share a last name, nothing more. And the little things that used to matter, they're long gone. Doug forgets their anniversary again this year. Abby reminds him at breakfast, and he gives her that awkward, "oh yeah, of course" kind of reaction. The one people give when they know they've messed up but don't really want to own it. He says they'll do something this weekend. She doesn't believe him. She's stopped getting her hopes up. What hurts the most isn't that he forgot, it's how used to it she is now. And yet there's still one person in that house who sees her. Daryl, their 17-year-old son, is quiet and thoughtful. He's not one of those moody teenagers who slams doors and tunes everyone out. He's grounded, kind, and maybe most importantly, he notices things. He notices her. He asks if she slept okay. He gives her hugs in the hallway. He sits with her during dinner and actually talks about his day. It's not a lot, but it means everything. Because when someone's been ignored for years, even the smallest kindness can feel like a spotlight. Abby finds herself looking forward to the moments when it's just the two of them. Dinner without Doug, grocery runs with Daryl, sitting in the car after school talking about nothing and everything. And little by little, her heart starts to attach itself to those moments. She doesn't realize it yet, but she's starting to emotionally lean on her son in a way that isn't healthy. It's subtle at first. She lingers a little too long in conversations, feels jealous when he chooses to hang out with friends instead of staying home, starts dressing up a bit more when she knows he's going to be around. And every time Doug sends another text saying he's working late or heading out of town again, Abby feels a little more invisible, and a little more drawn to the only person in the house who actually sees her. She tells herself it's nothing, just a mom being close to her son. But deep down, a part of her is desperate, not for romance but for warmth, connection. Any sign that she still matters to someone. That's the thing no one talks about. Emotional neglect doesn't scream, it whispers, quietly, for years, until one day, someone reaches out for comfort, and doesn't realize they've crossed a line until it's too late. And in Abby's case, that moment is coming sooner than she thinks. Daryl Price is 17, but there's something older in the way he carries himself. Maybe it's the quiet way he listens, or how he pays attention when most people his age would rather scroll through their phones. Whatever it is, he's not your average teenager, and Abby feels it. She sees it in the way he pauses before answering her questions, like he actually cares what she's saying, in the way he picks up on her moods without her having to say a word. Doug used to do that, a long time ago. It starts with little things. Daryl begins making her tea in the evenings, just how she likes it, peppermint, no sugar, extra hot. She never asked for it. He just noticed. Then one night, she's standing in the hallway in an old dress she pulled out of the closet. She used to wear it all the time when Doug said it made her look beautiful. She's not sure why she put it on that day. Maybe just to feel something. Maybe to feel like herself again. Doug walks right past her on his way to the study. doesn't even glance at her. But Daryl, he stops mid-step on the stairs and says, "Hey, you look really nice, Mom. That dress looks good on you." It's simple, casual, but Abby feels it like a jolt, not because she wants anything from him. She doesn't even understand what she's feeling yet. But when someone's starving, even crumbs feel like a feast. From then on, she finds herself looking forward to the little ways he shows he cares. He offers to help with dinner without being asked. He asks how she's feeling and listens, really listens, when she answers. When she talks, he looks at her. He doesn't scroll through his phone or check his watch. He's present, and after years of being ignored, that presence feels like sunlight. One night, Doug is working late again. The house is quiet. Abby's curled up on the couch with an old blanket, tears running down her cheeks. She's not even sure why she's crying anymore. It's everything and nothing. The kind of sadness that sneaks up on you when you're alone with your thoughts too long. Daryl walks in and stops in the doorway. She wipes her face quickly, trying to pull herself together. He doesn't say anything at first, just walks over and sits next to her, gently placing an arm around her shoulder. "Rough day?" he asks softly. She nods, too embarrassed to speak, but when he pulls her into a hug, she breaks, not loudly, just this quiet, shaking sob that's been stuck inside her for years. And she holds on to him, too long, long enough that even she realizes it, but she doesn't want to let go, because in that moment, he's not just her son. He's the only person in the entire world who makes her feel like she still matters. Later that night, after he's gone back to his room, Abby sits alone in the living room, the blanket wrapped around her, the tea he made still warm in her hand. She stares at the cup for a long time, heart pounding with a strange mix of gratitude and guilt. She knows what she's feeling isn't right, not in a romantic way, but in a boundary way. She's leaning too hard, needing too much, and part of her is ashamed, but another part, it just feels relieved, like she's finally getting the affection and attention she's been missing for so long. And in her head, this quiet question keeps repeating. Why does he see me when his father doesn't? Why is the only warmth I feel from him? It's not lust. It's not love. It's something messier, something that doesn't fit into clean categories. Emotional need, loneliness, a hunger to feel seen and safe. And that kind of hunger, it's dangerous when left unchecked. Abby doesn't know it yet, but this moment, this tiny quiet evening, is the beginning of something much bigger, something she won't be able to walk back from. Have you ever found yourself leaning too hard on someone just because they gave you what you were missing elsewhere? It doesn't make you a bad person, but it's a line that can get blurry fast. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been there. After that night on the couch, something quietly shifts in Abby. Nothing obvious, no big declarations, no dramatic changes, just small adjustment, barely noticeable, unless you're paying close attention. She starts looking at the clock around 3 p.m. every day. That's when Daryl usually gets home from school. Some days she'll have snacks ready, or pretend to be organizing the mail near the door when he walks in. It's not on purpose, at least that's what she tells herself, but deep down she's waiting. She finds excuses to be near him, drives him to school even when he could take the bus, shows up at parent-teacher conferences she used to skip, sitting in the front row, scribbling notes. She volunteers to help with the school play, even though Daryl's only working lights backstage, just to be around. It's not that she's doing anything wrong on paper, but emotionally, she's drifting deeper into something that doesn't feel right, even to her. She starts talking to him more, not just about homework or dinner plans, but about Doug, about how lonely she's felt, about how distant their marriage has become, about how it hurts to be in a house full of people and still feel like no one sees you. Daryl doesn't know what to do with all of it, but he always listens, and because he's kind, because he's gentle, because he's just trying to help, he says what any good kid would. "Mom, I'm always here if you need someone to talk to." He means it the way a son means it, with love, with loyalty, with concern. But Abby's not hearing it through the ears of a mother anymore. She's hearing it as someone who's been desperately craving connection. And suddenly, his words start to mean more than they should. She begins to rely on him emotionally. She feels calmer when he's around, happier, safe, and slowly, she starts changing little things, almost like she's trying to be seen again, but only by him. She starts wearing makeup again, but only in the afternoons, before he gets home. Her clothes get a little more fitted. She tells herself it's just self-care, that she's doing it for her. But deep down she knows better. Then there's the jealousy, quiet, subtle, but real. The first time Daryl cancels dinner to go out with friends, Abby smiles and says, "Have fun," but the second he leaves, she's pacing the kitchen, annoyed, feeling replaced, forgotten, which, logically, she knows is ridiculous, but emotionally, it stings more than it should. She texts him things like "miss you," and "wish you were here," and when he responds with a heart emoji, or a sweet "love you," it hits her in a way it's not supposed to. One afternoon, he comes into the living room to say goodbye before heading to his friend Bud Connor's house. He leans down, kisses her on the cheek, something he's done since he was a kid. But this time when he pulls away, Abby's hand gently touches the side of his face, and stays there just a little too long. She's looking at him, not with lust or anything dramatic, just this overwhelming mix of longing and comfort and gratitude. The kind of gaze you give someone who feels like your lifeline. And for the first time, Daryl feels it too, that something is off. He pulls back, the air in the room changes. Neither of them says anything. He mumbles something about being late, and heads for the door. Abby stays frozen on the couch, her hand still resting in her lap where she touched him. Her heart is racing, but not in an exciting way, in a panic way, a shameful way. She didn't mean for it to feel weird, she didn't mean for it to get blurry, but and now that it's happened, she knows there's no unfeeling it. Daryl doesn't mention it later, he acts normal, kind even, but there's something different in the way he looks at her now, like he's confused, like he's trying to make sense of what just happened. And she spends the rest of the night replaying that moment in her mind, over and over again, wondering how things got so far off track, and whether it's already too late to stop what's coming next. Abby's grip on reality starts slipping little by little, like sand running through her fingers. She doesn't notice how often her thoughts drift to Daryl during the day, or maybe she does, but she convinces herself it's normal. A mother missing her son, that's harmless, right? Except it's not just missing. She feels it like a void, like something's missing from her body when he's not home, and when he is, she lights up in a way she hasn't in years. She starts journaling again, something she hasn't done since the early days of her marriage, back when Doug used to leave her little notes, and she'd write poems in the margins. Now those pages are filled with Daryl, not in a sexual way, never that, but emotionally, she's tangled in. There are pages where she writes about the way he listens to her, how safe she feels when he hugs her, how it's the only time she feels alive. She hides the journal under her bed. When Daryl goes out, even just to hang with friends or study at the library, she finds herself crying, not because he's done anything wrong, but because his absence feels like abandonment, just like Doug's, only sharper. Because this time she believed she mattered. She starts fantasizing about what life would be like if it were just the two of them. Not in any inappropriate way, she doesn't see it that way, but a fantasy, where she's the center of someone's world again, where she's not invisible, where someone wants to come home to her, talk to her, laugh with her. Doug, meanwhile, is even more distracted than usual. He's buried in conference calls, out late more often. Abby notices he's been texting more, smiling down at his phone during dinner. When she asks who it is, he shrugs, just work stuff. She doesn't ask again, but something in her stomach tightens. There's a name that keeps showing up: Marcy Payne, his coworker. Abby sees it on his phone screen one night when he leaves it charging in the kitchen. She doesn't open the messages. She doesn't need to. Her gut already knows. So she spirals. And then comes the storm. It's late, well past midnight. Rain is pounding the windows, wind howling through the trees. Abby sits on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a robe, shaking. Her thoughts won't slow down. Her heart feels too full and too empty at the same time. Down the hall she hears Daryl's door creak open. He finds her sitting in the living room, lights off, tears streaking down her face. She tries to hide it, wiping at her eyes quickly, but it's no use. "Mom?" he says, walking closer. She doesn't answer. He kneels in front of her and gently places his hands on her arms. "What's wrong?" She lets out a shaky breath and tries to smile, but it crumbles. Her voice is cracked. I feel so alone." Daryl hugs her. He always hugs her. She leans into him, but this time, it's different. Her hand finds his face. She looks at him like he's the only steady thing left in her collapsing world. Her lips are inches from his cheek, her breath heavy. There's a pause, a silence that stretches too long. She leans in. Daryl stiffens. He pulls back fast. His hands drop from her arm. His eyes are wide, hurt, confused, and scared all at once. "Mom?" he says, voice trembling. "What are you doing?" The silence after that is louder than any thunder outside. Abby realizes, in an instant, what she just did, or almost did. The fog in her mind clears just long enough for her to see the line she crossed, or came terrifyingly close to crossing. Her face twists into panic. "I'm so sorry," she whispers, already backing away. She gets up and walks quickly down the hall, not running, but desperate. She locks herself in the bathroom and sinks to the floor, and then the sobbing begins. Not the quiet kind from earlier, not the pretty movie scene crying. It's raw, ugly, guttural, like years of pain are finally tearing their way out of her throat all at once. Daryl doesn't knock. He just stands outside the door for a long time, and then quietly he turns, goes to his room and starts packing a bag. He doesn't say goodbye. He leaves a note on the kitchen table. "I love you, Mom, but I need space. Please don't try to find me tonight." And just like that, he's gone. The house is silent again, but this time, it's not just lonely, it's broken. And Abby is left sitting on the bathroom floor, shaking, knowing there's no pretending anymore. Something in her has cracked wide open, and nothing will be the same after.